another episode of the Wadhwani Viewpoint podcast. My name is Manali Shah, and joining us today is an absolute doyen of India's business landscape. Harish Mehta is the co-founder and first elected chairman of NASSCOM, the founder of Onward Technologies, and now also the author of a best-selling book called The Maverick Effect. Mr. Mehta, it's an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Manila. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to share my views here.
Great. So let's get straight to the conversation. Tell us a little bit about the Maverick Effect. It chronicles the beginning and the rise of India's IT revolution. NASSCOM has played such a crucial part in it. It's known as the industry body that gave wings to the IT revolution. It's your debut book and it's a bestseller as well. And I believe it has been 3 years in the making. So I'd love to hear more about the book from you.
The book talks about, you can say, how the fortunes of billion people changed. That is, and I put my stake on the ground in the book, saying it is the IT industry that changed the fortunes of billion people, and IT industry also grew. Again, I'm saying it is thanks to the role that NASSCOM played in making the entire environment in such a way that the IT industry could grow at that rate. And then this book is about, as I call it, secret sauce of NASSCOM. That what is it that NASSCOM has done? What are the values and the best practices that NASSCOM has adopted that allowed the IT industry to grow and in turn change the fortunes of a billion people? Because today we do talk about India as an unstoppable engine, driven by, let's say, startup world. So that's the message behind the book.
And what prompted you to write it?
What prompted me? Okay, that's a good question. In a sense that I think maybe 4 or 5 years back, my daughter-in-law, Natasha, she would at the home I talk about the great thing NASSCOM is doing. So she said, we are talking about it, but I don't think the market knows about it. No one writes about it, no one talks about it. I took her comment seriously. So then looked at the books published by leading public sector executives or officers, RBI governors, politicians. And I looked at the index page. Is the word NASSCOM there? I was shocked. Not a single book had NASSCOM in the index. Then I looked at technology as a word. Maybe 1 or 2 books had some reference here and there about the technology word. And I said, here are the individuals who were on top of the bureaucratic or the political world in India for the last 30, 40 years. And they just don't know what is happening underneath partly. So now there is an African proverb which says that if the lions had historians, the stories of hunting would not have glorified the hunters.
Right.
So if nobody has written the story about NASSCOM, no one knows about it. Now, I, for example, just as I said a few minutes before, that look back where India was 32 years back, when NASSCOM started. We were known as a third world country. We were known as a snake charmers country. We had no foreign exchange. We were bankrupt, as a matter of fact. In 91, India had to mortgage gold to Bank of England to pay for some dollars for an import of oil at that time. Now, from that situation to today, with a larger population, and we are seeing, let's say, unstoppable engine India has become. India has become a global tech powerhouse as it is being positioned. And look at some numbers. IT industry earned more than $1 trillion of foreign exchange over the last 20 years. Now, last year, the industry earned $175 billion. And by the way, this number is more than what Saudi Arabia earns in oil export from Saudi Arabia. The difference is, in Saudi Arabia, the money goes in one account. While in India, the money to thousands of companies goes in millions of accounts. And millions meaning, today industry employs 5.3 million software engineers. These are high-paying, high disposable income jobs. Each job or each person indirectly employs 4 to 5 additional people in the society. So if you look at that total number and they take an average family of 4, our industry today supports twice the population of UK. Now look at the seeds of cultural transformation our industry has planted. There was a time when, today IIT Bombay's gardener's son became a software engineer. And he became a software engineer because what he knew and what he studied, not because he knew someone to get a job. He knew software, he appeared for the test, and he got the job. That meritocracy has been being injected by our industry in the country. Look at women employment. Today, out of 5.3, 37% are women employees. 2 million women employees. Now, just imagine if these women who are getting high disposable income, the freedom they enjoy, financial freedom they enjoy at home, how they're going to bring up their children, how they're going to contribute at the work, how they're going to change the community they live in. To me, it's a silent revolution taking place behind.
Absolutely.
So now that's the sort of contribution of the industry at some cultural values, aside hardworking and delivering quality work and so on and so forth. Look at the transparency or the corporate governance standards employed by the industry. Industry was the first to come up with following the world governance standards in, let's say, quarterly reports and the annual reports, which started building trust in India as a brand, as a trusted nation. And the FDI money started flowing in. Of course, starting with IT industry, now across all the industry sectors. So that kind of revolutionary, in my view, change has been impacted by the IT industry. I could not find any other industry segment in the country which has contributed in the last, say, 40 years or 30 years. Other industries that have contributed substantially, I would say, were indirectly supported by IT industry. In a sense, let's say, wherever the company comes up, the real estate would put up residences where the employees will buy the apartments there. Retail malls will come up because they have a capacity to buy. If they were driving a scooter, they start driving a car, buying through EMI and whatnot. Now, EMI and other schemes came through the banking industry, and the banking industry grew. Similarly, airports got expanded. Similarly, people from tier 2 cities to tier 3 started coming in. Tier 1 cities started. So all that change has been brought in by the industry. I didn't find really any other industry segment. So that's why I put my claim on the book saying it is the industry that has changed India. And that's what this Maverick Effect, the book is about.
Absolutely. The industry has had such a domino effect on shaping India's course. So I'd like to know what the process of putting together the book was like, because you are going back several decades.
I'm not an author, I'm not an historian, and I'm not an economist. But this book had to highlight all three aspects. In a sense, if I put my claim on the ground saying IT industry change in India, it has to be backed up by economic numbers. If we create a new middle class, it has to be backed up. It is a definitely industry created the new middle class in the country. Similarly, if I want to document the history of NASSCOM, how NASSCOM made change to IT industry, now IT industry change India, I had to capture the history of last 32 years. And it had to be captured in a way like an historian. Otherwise, there's no real fun about it. And the third is disclosing the secret sauce of NASSCOM. So I said, how do I tackle this job? It's like startup in a way. You have an idea and now you want to go and implement it. So here I have an idea of writing a book. So like any other startup entrepreneur would do, I did the research about what is a good book, argument say. Who are the authors whom I really like and whose writings I like or the books I like. I talk to some of them, understood from them what does make book look good. I mean, reader appreciate. See, in India, frankly, nobody buys books. Nobody reads books. Those days are gone as such. But this document had to be prepared indirectly as a story, which is interesting for people to read. So, like there is a guideline or a best practice in story writing, that show but not tell.
Yes.
So you follow that. So like that, I collected those best practices, and now I said I need to put a whole team together of economists, researchers, writers. I was a programmer myself years back, so I'm good at details, and I'm a good coder or something, good micromanager that way. So that comfort and confidence I had. So I put the whole team together, and my daughter-in-law Natasha, I said, you be the CEO or a project in charge of this. And over a time, we had 6-7 people involved in writing the book. Of course, then there were lots of ups and downs. COVID came in between, so that put in a big break. Plus, by design, I wanted to just go away from what I've written and go back after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and take a fresh look. So all that within, and then like a programmer in a way, you can say, I make one change in one chapter somewhere, I'll see that it is impacting at 7 other places in the book. So it's not like a spaghetti board in a way, but you have to fix it. So but there has to be a consistency of flow in what you say, the choice of words, and we use a number of software tools, frankly, to improve the quality or the readability of the book. There are software products which measures the complexity of the page or a chapter or a whatnot. So you decide where you want to put your level and what level of reader you expect, and based on that you change. So things like, for example, if you write say $1, you write one numeric and $1, or you write ONE and $1. ONE $1 is a simpler reading. The one as a character, it makes it a little harder to read. So like this is a starting point too, and bring in all those changes, including like we counted, and the software tells you how often the word NASSCOM is used. So maybe it's 1,200 times. So let's bring it down to 200. Or the word technology. Like that, we worked on the book from 15 different angles to improve the readability and the impact that the reader should get coming out of the book without compromising on show but not tell sort of principles. And like we had no idea. We didn't know the outcome from that perspective of our expectations were much lower because we were told nobody buys the books and so on and so forth. And it turned out that the people loved the book. Became, as you just said, instant bestseller, and within a few months became national bookseller. Even after a year, the book is going very strong. So I'm very happy with the outcome that we got out of the book.
Yes, it's been very well received. I was curious to know whether you reached out to any of your peers while recalling certain incidents from a few decades or years ago for some details or their account of how things went down.
If the book has to have a place in the history, one thing was very clear to me, which again I read and understood, and I said, we must follow that. It has to be truthful. There was a Gujarati writer named Wadhwani Shah. He said that if you are not truthful and you have to assume you are walking naked on the street, the book will be only read by a few of your friends and colleagues and whatnot. But if it is truthful, society will read. So in this book, we have gone to, you can say, miles in that sense from efforts to see that every sentence is a truthful statement. So people who were, luckily most of the people who were involved in the industry are alive today. Every one of them read the book before it was published. So they all verified, I won't say verified, but they went through it, gave their comments, what they say. Again, your writing what happened 35 years back. I have a habit of writing personal notes. It helped me to reconstruct, but still may not be proper recollection. So collected the views of everybody, put them together, and it came out, including the critics of NASSCOM. They also reviewed the book. So one of the critics reviewed the book. He gave me 32 suggestions.
Oh, wow.
And simple things like I had said the digital equipment for joint venture went public at BSC and NSC. He came back saying, Mr. Mehta, NSC didn't exist in 1988. Now in our writing, you write both BSc and NSC, not realizing when NSC took birth, for example. So we corrected that. I think another interesting statement was, I had a statement which said India mortgage gold during Narasimha Rao's government's time. He came back and said, that's not a true statement. I said, no, look at my research team's work. I sent him the Economic Times articles, Times of India articles, with the headline saying India sending gold to New England, or Bank of England and all. In the evening, he came back and he said, Mr. Mehta, you are still wrong. I called Yashwant Sinha, who was then Finance Minister of India. And Finance Minister, his first reaction was on the subject, क्यों मुझे वो दुखी भरे दिन याद कराते हो? Because I am the one, Yashwant Sinha and Chandrasekhar had signed that agreement to mortgage gold from India to Bank of England. And after that, our government fell. The first batch was airlifted at that time, and the second batch was airlifted during Narasimha Rao's time. So what you say is partly right. That's not how it happened. So I corrected that statement. But now that sentence is no relevance to the book as such. But from the reader's perspective, if they start suspecting even one sentence wrong, then they start suspecting maybe many more things could be wrong also. So we corrected that. So we put in that sort of meticulous effort in every way to make sure that the book is as close to truth as possible. And so I tell you, not a single suggestion I have received, except one, I think, where there is a correction needed in the book.
Okay. I think it's very important for today's youth and especially entrepreneurs in all fields to know about this part of India's history and about the role NASSCOM has played as well. So moving on.
Manali, the point only you see is way the book was done, like a startup in a way.
Yeah.
Putting all the pieces
I found
together,
it fascinating.
bringing the management team together.
Yeah.
We didn't have a very KRAs and goals that way. Except the simple goal was that it has to be a successful book. In our eyes, there was no real standard for us to compare with in terms of, and there was no financial measurement either. But overall, as we say, you try to excel in the best at whatever you do, results will be there, will come automatically. So that's a very important, I would say, learning for me as well as hopefully for others. If you put in your best effort, chances are great that it will reach the end that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, and I also believe that the book has a lot of personal anecdotes from you. So what prompted you to include like personal details in the book? It's almost like a biography in some ways.
It's the pieces only of my biography in a sense that. So see, when I decided to put a stake on the ground, if I don't put it my biography and let's say in my way of saying it, I didn't want anyone to challenge. I say, if you don't agree with what I say, you write a book. If I am putting a stake on the ground saying IT industry change India, NASSCOM change IT industry, you don't agree, you write a book on it. These are my views, and I'm giving you my stories. Let the reader decide what is the real stuff behind it. Now, I read lots of books, and then I always find a lot of things missing in terms of the context. Like every Harvard business article or every management article, you like something great, but then you realize you don't know the full context. Is it really applicable to your environment? If you do not know the context, I don't know how is it applicable to you. So here also I realized that if I don't tell the readers what is in my mind, who am I, and how I wrote this, and when Nascom started from my office, what was going through my mind at that point when the Nascom was started, and what all the challenges were there. So if I give them my views, at least the reader has some sense of what must be going through, and then hopefully reach some decision on it. So the idea was to bring in that personal piece to add substance or sort of validation to the point that I was putting in.
So as I was saying, let's go back to when you launched Nascom. What were sort of the challenges that you faced back then?
Those were the days, going back to the 80s, we are talking about 1988 when we started Nascom. At that time, the science or the technology policies were decided by the scientists and the educationists as the gatekeepers for this industry in India. Now, so they had a certain vision, and they believed more in, you can call it self-reliance or made in India type of thinking. India to develop, India to own and whatnot. Now, for them, business was a different opportunity. That was not their area of expertise. So they wanted us to be in hardware business. They wanted us to be in a software product business. Because those are the two segments as businesses were known. Now, some of us had dabbled into the product game and we had failed. We realized there are 18 challenges to be successful in a product game in India. Simple thing like copyright. In India, we believe in right to copy, not in copyright. Now, and plus, we have very weak enforcement and a very weak judiciary. So why should anyone do a product development? At a 50,000 feet level in terms of not getting support from judiciary or enforcement is one level. Second is at product level also, if your customers if your others are going to copy, pirate it, and how are you going to ultimately monetize your investment? Plus, apart from other challenges of product engineering and product architecture and all that. So we realized India is just not ready for product game. But we saw opportunity in services. Like when I came back to India in 1977, I was a database manager at Travelers Insurance Company at Hartford, Connecticut. Now, what I was doing sitting in a cubicle in Hartford, Connecticut, I could do the same work sitting in Mumbai in another cubicle. All I needed was a communication pipe landing into the Travelers Insurance Company's data center. I have access to those applications, databases, and that computer. I can do the same work. And I would get paid for 1/15th at that time. 15 times differential. So there's a great offshoring opportunity for tech services. That we could see. And then there were reports from IDG and others saying the total outsourcing market is $300 billion. So pie was phenomenal. But without the pipe, you can't do anything. Very little. You send your people abroad and they work at the customer premises. That's very limited. It's very limited by visas and plus all other challenges. So offshoring had to be, as a model, has to develop. That required number of policy changes. We had countered at that time not only the communication challenges, but import challenges of, let's say, state-of-the-art computers or software. Educational institutes cannot import the state-of-the-art computers, so they can't develop people around it. Two, Reserve Bank don't know what you are doing in software marketing or exports or services. Because when I go abroad for marketing, I'll go from Bombay to London to New York and back. And my prospect says, no, come after a week. So I change my itinerary. Within a week, Reserve Bank will issue a summons to me. Not summons, but notice saying, please come and see us within a week, 7 days. You go and show up and you are treated like as if you ran some crime or what. because they think that what are you exporting? Software services, they didn't understand. So they always thought we use the very high, hard-earned foreign exchange by the country in spending it for personal pleasure, in going to visiting London and New York and back. They just didn't understand. So they wanted to know why, what, and so on and so forth. So income tax department, they will not allow your marketing expenses as an expense. What are you exporting? So it's like that software was not defined anywhere in wherever it was defined in a very different way. So like that we counted to 150 or 100 plus, let's say, regulations strangulating the services business, software services. So that's where we said we need to form an association to work at this changes to be done. Plus we realized that we studied other associations, their constitutions, and we learned from their experience in do's and don'ts, which we brought into the NASSCOM also. And we said none of them were focused on building the ecosystem. Which in our business, we knew one thing, that technology will keep changing. So we will have to remain focused on building the ecosystem see that all these changes get incorporated. So day one, we started focusing on building the ecosystem and as well as lobbying as one of the major leg of the NASCOM. That's how the NASCOM started.
Great, and the rest, as we know it, is history.
History, yeah. But then there are many such changes where NASCOM was different, which we can talk later, yeah.
Yes, definitely. So the IT revolution that India saw in the 80s and then 90s, it's sort of the precursor to the startup revolution that we're witnessing right now. Did you foresee that sort of revolution coming about?
I don't think so, no. We didn't, frankly, when we started, our vision was not at all at what will happen. But what we knew is, like I was in USA, in 1988, I can say India was at least 15 years behind in technology. By the time we get going and whatnot, the gap was increasing, not reducing. We had no foreign exchange in 91. So that much vision we all had. USA already is so advanced if you look at the military product, defense products, which they had at that time, to like travelers insurance company, the computerization that has taken place in an insurance company and all other different segments and the retails, and we can see the impact of technology across the society. So we knew that we will definitely, at some point, that change will bring in. But whether it will be as a startup, I don't think. Yes, we were very close to. In 90s, we came to know. Once we got, like I had a joint venture with Onward Novel, started in 92, and they were based in Silicon Valley and Utah. So Kanwal Ricky was in Silicon Valley, who came on my company as a director. Similarly, Eric Smith, who was the chairman of NASSCOM, came as a chairman of Onward Novel in India. So we got exposed to Silicon Valley that way, and we started knowing. But that was, I would say, maybe 5-7 years later after we started NASSCOM.
Okay.
And then we could see what is happening there. So in that sense, whether India is ready, we were not sure. That took another 15 years because without internet, we were nowhere.
Right.
The internet itself had, so we as a NASSCOM had coined a phrase, roti kapda makan, and 3 megabits of bandwidth per citizen.
Oh, wonderful.
Back to 95, 96 probably. At that time, the telecom minister said, bandwidth kya cheez hai? They had no idea about what is bandwidth. And here we are, so we knew that this revolution is needed in the country. And since they didn't know what bandwidth was, you'll be surprised, we roped in Shammi Kapoor, film actor, to promote internet in India.
Oh, wow.
He was an internet user, and Apple had given the first, I believe, Apple computer to him as a gift.
Okay.
And that's how we came to know him, and we said, why not we have him as our icon, celebrity, spokesperson to promote internet in India. So we'll go to telecom department. people will come to see him and meet him. And then subtly, the whole message of internet would go in. So a number of things we had to do to promote and bring, let's say, internet into India. And then eventually, once the internet came and Reliance dropped the rates, all lots of sudden things happened by which the infrastructure started developing and the startup revolution took place.
Right. So many of these challenges and incidents are unimaginable in today's context, but you've experienced them firsthand. What are your thoughts on the startup ecosystem in India today?
You will not find a better person than me as an optimist. I have seen a snake charmer's country reaching the stage, and the kind of talent you see around you, the young people, the restless, energetic, smart, enthusiastic, you see everywhere. I see in tier 2 cities, I see in tier 3 cities. I think we are in for a big surprises. What these entrepreneurs, I mean both male and female, or man and woman, are going to bring in over the next 10 years itself. Massive positive change these startups would bring to India. Literally, India's every problem will be solved by the startups. Extremely bullish on it.
Great. And your opinions on the current policies and regulations related to startups? Do you think they can be improved, or do you think that we're on the right path?
We are on the right path. But the one big area which government has to attack is we are still consumers of technology. If you see, all our startups are as a consumer, as an app driven. None of them on the production side. None of them are developing original technologies. Very few of them are developing algorithms. Deep tech has just started, but we're nowhere closer to what it should be. We don't combine hardware and software. They're all substantially software driven. So big changes required, and that starts at an R&D level in the universities, and then percolate to corporate R&D, government R&D, and then coming up and visioning out what are the relevant products, technologies for India, which are average Indian affordability is so low, like $2,000 per capita. You just can't afford. So we need to have products and services which are affordable as well as accessible to billion people. So all that requires a major change to come in from that research and other perspective. Otherwise, on the app side, it's doing very well, going great guns. Yes, there are many areas where policymakers don't know, and I've written in my book also that we have to invest a lot in both capacity and the capabilities of policymakers on the newer technologies, be it crypto, be it CRISPR, be it, you name it. There are so many new technologies which we ourselves don't understand well. We don't have as a country, we don't have think tanks who can guide the industries. So there are lots of missing pieces there, not only the regulations. Then India will grow as a balanced, I would say, tech powerhouse.
Right. And while we are on the subject of startups, what is that one quality that you feel has helped you as an entrepreneur through the decades?
One quality, I don't know, frankly. I don't think there's one quality.
that one main quality that you feel other entrepreneurs should look to inculcate?
Tough for me to answer that way. One quality, because I have seen at different times, depending on the different challenges, you require different skill set. So maybe, I don't know, one would be, let's say, have an idea, but then do enough some proper research before you launch into your game. That could be one, like my book as an example. But that is not enough, because when I started, for example, Onward, that was not the thing. There's a very different way of it. There it was more, you can say, risk-taking ability. Starting Onward at that time. So coming back to India and starting a company is another set of skills are required.
Right.
So I don't know, there is no one particular skill I would say, but yeah, curiosity, ability to ask questions. I call it be intellectually honest. In a sense, your own personality should not, your own perception should not drive the decision making. You have to be very honest in terms of analyzing the situation. Self-belief, if at all, self-belief could be one probably, if at all. I would say the one quality. You believe in what you want to do, and then things will start falling in place.
Great. And if you had to distill your learnings over the years into 3 key points, 3 takeaways for young aspiring entrepreneurs, what would those key learnings be?
First, definitely dream big. There is nothing less than that. That to me is very clear that you have to go for, take your moonshots, whatever you call it. You have to dream big. To give an example of Nascom, when we were $50 million, 100, whatever, we started dreaming of $1 billion as an industry. Even Mr. Vittal, who was a DOE secretary at that point in time, when we were trying to sell our vision of the industry to him, he said, "Do you know how many zeros are in a billion?" But we said, "No, it's a $300 billion pie. We are here. We need to solve these obstacles. Then we can go to reach $1 billion." When we reached $1 billion, we came up with the next goal of $50 billion by 2008 or something. When we were 50 billion, we started dreaming of 100 billion, 100 to 200. Today we are at 250. We are now dreaming of 350. Somebody is dreaming of 500. Different. So unless you dream big, and then as we say, fold the future back, you work back and then let it loose, suddenly you'll realize that you need every stakeholder in the ecosystem, what they are supposed to do. So like in Nascom's case, once we realize we'll require, assuming this unfolds the way we are saying it, we will need 10x the number of people. So we wrote the first draft of 20 Indian states' IT policies. So they adopted the IT policy, implemented it. So let's say when the Java wave came, suddenly we had 20 engineering colleges giving us engineers who are trained on Java. Maybe a raw material, but it was good enough for us to get started with. So like that, dreaming big helps in terms of your entire planning strategy. The second lesson I would say is build a trustworthy environment that you are in. I have seen it at NASSCOM and that by building NASSCOM becoming an, you can say, independent, neutral, transparent, trusted catalyst with the policymakers and all other stakeholders and the industry, we could contribute 30% compounded growth over 30 years. Now, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, he used to say, if you get 18% compounded growth, you are a king. If you do 21%, you are an emperor. Here, industry delivered 30%. Now, I believe I'll give major credit to trustworthy environment. So because of the trust we had between policymakers and us, no complex regulations were brought in to monitor our industry. Once there's a trust between us and them, our entrepreneurs were ready to take risk. They knew the government is behind them. They will support us. So they ventured out in a new country in the world to sell services, whatever or new practice they need to develop, they'll do. So they were reasonably comfortable, very innovative from that perspective, having a comfort factor that here are the policymakers, they'll trust us and we can work with them. So like from that perspective, building a trustworthy environment where, let's say, real estate industry, one of the stakeholders, they trusted our strategic report. And that strategic report would project all the numbers for next 5 years, plus all the ifs and buts also, where the risk factors and so on. Then up to the user to decide what it means. So it helped real estate planners plan their activities. So what happens is everyone grows in the process. So I would say being a trusted partner or trusted catalyst is very critical. So that was the second lesson. And the third lesson I like to give to young entrepreneurs especially is that when you are young and you are at the peak of your career, you should invest 10% of your time. I'm saying at the peak of your career, not when you have made money and you donate money. At the peak of your career, spend 10% of time in building an ecosystem beyond your company. The same enthusiasm and energy you have for the exponential growth of your company, you invest the same energy to get the exponential growth of the ecosystem around you, selflessly, collaboratively, keeping India first. It's a single voice. So when you put these parameters together, what you do is magic. I can give you one story how this can help. And in the process, what happens is you start believing in theory of abundance, where when you contribute at ecosystem level, the pie gets bigger. Once the pie gets bigger, you have existing players can grow faster, as well as allow hundreds of new ones to take part. So that's the philosophy behind it, that building an ecosystem and growing the pie, everyone grows in the process. I don't know how much time we have. How much do you have?
Yeah, I have time. Absolutely.
I'll tell you a story here where would be very relevant from that perspective, that it's not the money, it's the idea, creative idea that is required of that entrepreneur in building the ecosystem. So going back in early 90s, MNCs saw the performance of our industry. They were amazed at the quality of work IT industry was doing. So they came back to us and said, would you propose to the government of India to allow us to come to India with 100% ownership or back office operation? In those days, they were not allowed to have 100%. Maximum they were allowed was 40%. We said because of back office work, confidential work, and it's something which we will never farm out. So we would prefer to do it on our own. Would you allow us to set up a 100% unit? Now at NASSCOM, when people are young, contributing about 10% of their time for the industry, this came up for discussion. Now all the fierce competitors, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, around the table. Now what do? So first reaction was negative, because the natural protection was given by the government. So why should we invite our so-called competitor to India? Plus we were worried that they'll take away our people by paying twice the salary. Plus we were worried that with the existing business we are doing with them, under the garb of back office, they'll shift it to themselves. So we'll be left holding the bag. But on the other end, because we had created that trusted environment, I call it, where the creative juices flow of the entrepreneurs, somebody said, no, but we will help, we'll gain a lot by learning from them. The quality process, ours are more homegrown quality processes. So we can learn from their, why they come here, their quality processes, from infrastructure to development to even marketing and everywhere. It's a great learning for us. And plus, if we build in their mind that India is a place to do business with, the other areas which are not given to us will start opening up. And that pie is huge big. So it's an informed risk we should take. But still, there was a discomfort. Why should we allow them to come to India? They're not spending any money. It's only discussions there at different meetings taking place. Same time, there was a debate in USA. Who is us? Because the Japanese companies had made major inroads in US at that time. That is Sony and I don't know, the two Sony, Toyota, some of those companies. And against IBM, Motorola, Whirlpool, American companies. The big debate. Who is us? Who is an American? So same question came to our council. Okay, who is us? Who is NASSCOM? So in that process, somebody came up saying that whoever develops human capital of India is us. And who doesn't is not us. So allowing MNCs to come in will definitely help build India's human capital. So we must allow that. We again went back to all the players of the industry. They all agreed, okay, yes, we should go ahead and support this. We went to the government of Finance Ministry. We said we would like them to we recommend you allow 100% ownership to MNCs. One of the senior officers said, "वापस देश को बेचने आ गए." But there's a colonial mindset. East India Company was allowed to come in and then they took over the country. So here they were afraid that MNCs will allow them, they'll take over and whatnot. Somebody said, "Tum kiske dalal ho?" So we were treated very differently with such proposal. But we were ready with the data, facts, analysis, why we should allow them to come in. And they approved. They allowed them to come in. Now that single decision, as today we have 1,800 R&D centers in India. They employ 1.2 million software engineers. Some of them are already representing the board and co-creating future for their parent companies. And there's an excellent symbiotic relationship between that segment and the IT industry. Both grew over the last 30 years in the process, building capabilities, and as you know, all the exchange that takes place among various players of the industry. So when that 10% contribution, creative juices flowing, keeping India first, and taking a hard call, not afraid of competition, not afraid of multinationals. So that confidence comes when you are young and which is what you do it for your company anyway. We would like that to come at an ecosystem level. Once ecosystem comes, it develops everybody can grow in the process. So that will be my third message. Invest 10% of your time at the peak of your career in strengthening the ecosystem.
Incredible, and all the values that you've demonstrated: dream big, build an environment of trust, build the ecosystem. They're all values that you've lived. So it's really incredible to see. The stories that you've shared are extremely interesting, and I'd like to ask you another question on a similar note. Given that you are a visionary, you're always looking ahead, where do you see digital India in the next, say, 50 years?
Not my strength I'm not a visionary. I'm not a futurist that way. I'm an optimist. You can say that. But yeah, in my book also I describe, I see India becoming, I'm not saying digital India, but becoming Sone Ki Chidiya version 2.0.
Okay.
So from 100% literacy, it's not only the technology piece, it is all the other pieces socially has to be developed, and technology with compassion has to again develop. So I've described briefly some of those points. But yeah, Sone Ki Chidiya version 2.0 would be my vision in not 50 years, but maybe 10 to 15 years from now.
Great. And on a similar note, I would like to know your views on artificial intelligence. Since we are talking about digital India, there is a lot of talk and speculation about AI and the possible effects it can have on various things like job creation and so on and so forth. So how do you view AI?
As I'm saying before also, I'm an optimist. So I would all out go and support AI. Yes, I agree. It's a different piece of animal in a sense that it's not something that can be controlled. So regulations are absolutely must, because it can create havoc in terms of both ethical, social. When you look at many other considerations, it can do a lot of damage. It can be job creation. I'm not so much concerned right now in a sense that yes, it will have an impact. But on the other end, I believe many more new jobs also would be created. Where it will get created, how, I do not know. And I'm just, as I'm saying, I'm an optimist, I'm a positive person. If you look at the automation that happened early 80s and 90s in USA, because of that automation, the Indian outsourcing industry took off. We ended up creating 5 million jobs on the automation by those customers.
Right.
This AI automation also, I'm hoping, we'll have to figure out how it will,
Yeah.
what changes it will come and where it will come and how it will create livelihood for every Indian. But it's a challenge. I'm not even denying it. But on the other end, the power is so much. It has potential to change every segment multifold. And we have $2,000 per capita. We have 90 million jobs. Huge challenges. So I do seek that smart use of these technologies, channeled productively, will make a huge impact, positive impact, I would say.
With that, we come to an end of this episode of the Wadhwani Viewpoint podcast. My name is Manali Shah, and I'll see you in the next one.